preparing for the second quiz out of Chapter 5. So we are looking at operations with functions here on the first three problems. And we see that we have an f of x function and a g of x function and an h of x function. So we are asked here in number 1 to add the f function to the g function. So we are going to take the f function here in red and the g function here in blue, and we are going to add them. So this is basically just combining like terms. Right? So I have 4x plus 3x for 7x, and negative 1 plus 5 for a positive 4. Number 2, we are subtracting the two functions. So f minus g, so 4x minus 1 minus the g function of 3x plus 5. Now, have to pay attention to the double negative. Distribute the subtraction here. So I have 4x minus 3x for a 1x, and the negative 1 minus a 5 would be negative 6. Looking at number 3, it asks us to multiply the two functions, right? F times g of x. So f function of 4x minus 1 times the g function of 3x plus 5. And this becomes a FOIL problem, right? First times first. 4x times 3x is 12x squared. O for FOIL is outer, so 4x times 5 plus 20x. I for inner, negative 1 times 3x for a negative 3x. And then L for last, negative 1 times 5. I would then need to finish this by combining like terms right here in the middle. 20x minus 3x would be a plus 17x. And then the minus 5. For numbers 4 through 7, we are looking at composition of functions. We still have the 3 functions listed. Right, so number 4 asks us to find f of g of 2. So doing that, I'm going to take the f function and I need to figure out what I am subbing into it. Right, so 4x minus 1. Right here in the f of g of 2, right? G of 2 is what is getting subbed in to the f function. I don't want to use g of 2. I want to find the value of g of 2. Right? So I'm going to take the g function, sub in a 2 for x. Right? So 3 times 2 is 6, plus 5 is 11. So that g of 2 is really an 11. Now I can finish this out. Right? 4 times 11 is 44, minus 1 is 43. For number 5, g of h of 3. So I need to take the g function and I'm going to be subbing something into it. I need to find the value of h of 3 because that is getting subbed in, right? G of h of 3. So h of 3, right? That is what is getting subbed into the g function for x. So let's find h of 3, right? 3 squared, x squared, minus 1. So 9 squared minus 1 would be 8. So my x value then for the g that goes into the g function would be 8, right? 3 times 8 is 24, plus 5 would be 29. For number 6, right? h of g of x. So looking here, we have no final x value that we are given, right? It's all going to stay as the variable x. So to solve this, I am going to take the h function of x squared minus 1, and the entire g function then is getting subbed in. So that would be 3x plus 5. Okay, so I need to square 3x plus 5. Right, so that's going to be FOIL. 3x plus 5 times 3x plus 5. And then minus 1. Right, so 3x times 3x would be 9x squared. And then I'm going to get 3x times 5 is 15x. And then I'm going to get another 15x from 5 times 3x. Right, so it'd be 30x plus 25 minus 1. So my final answer here would be 9x squared plus 30x plus 24. Last composition problem, number 7. Right? Again, we keep with the generic x, we don't have an x value. So g of f of x, I am going to take my g function, 3x plus 5, and I am going to use the entire f function to sub in, right, for x. So this will give me 12x minus 3 plus 5. Right, I have to distribute that 3 to both terms here. Final answer then of 12x plus 2. For the last 3, we're doing inverses, right? 3 steps for finding an inverse. So let's look at, we want to find the inverse of the f function. First step is to write it as y equals instead of f of x equals. Step 2 is to swap x and y. Right, so x equals 4y minus 1. Step 3 is to solve it back to y equals. Right, so I'll add the 1 away, and then I would divide out the 4. And then the last step would be to replace the y equals with this f to the negative 1. This f to the negative 1 is inverse notation, meaning we're finding that this equation here, this function, is the inverse of the f function. Inverse of the g function, right? The g function has a y equals equation. Switch x and y. And then solve this into y equals. Okay, fourth step, replace the y equals with that g to the negative 1, the inverse notation, right? So x minus 5 over 3. Finding the inverse of a relation, you're simply switching x and y, right? So instead of negative 9 comma 0, switch them, 0, negative 9. Start off with 1, negative 3, becomes negative 3 comma 1. And then negative 5 comma 8. That is the review for the second quiz out of chapter 5.